You know, there was a time where when the horror landscape was dominated by Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame 2. A time where no indie, especially the streamer-based kind, was on the market. A time where software houses weren't so afraid to launch new franchises. This was the landscape Dead Space, the original Dead Space, launched in. I still remember when I saw the first screens. I thought to myself, this kind of looks like Doom 3 but in third person. And yeah, at the time, I was mostly all about Resident Evil. Like, for me, horror was Resident Evil. Other franchises, I was really like not into them much. I was a Resident Evil nut back when the Umbrella like storyline was still not completely resolved, like slightly up until like Resident Evil 5, because that's where the Umbrella Spencer Wesker storyline gets completely resolved. So up until Resident Evil 5, I was like really into Resident Evil. And I thought like Dead Space was it was okay, but it was a poor man's Resident Evil 4. But nowadays it's kind of the opposite. I actually think that Dead Space is a more interesting franchise, and modern day Resident Evil is kind of meh. Honestly, it's not bad, but it's not that great either. But yeah, this was the the landscape, yeah, the Dead Space launched in. The story of Dead Space takes place in the distant future. I think it's like 2500 something. A future where humans have colonized space and are living in colonies. Earth is overpopulated, and its resources are dwindling fast. And humanity is also facing an energy crisis. One of the ways humanity tries to remedy that is with planet cracking. So basically they have giant ships, crack the planets, extract rocks, giant chunks of rocks from the planet, to extract resources, minerals, precious minerals, from the planet's cores to sustain themselves. And our protagonist is Isaac Clarke. He's an engineer, and I think he is 39 in the Space One, if I'm not mistaken. Which is pretty unusual for a protagonist to be this old, like at least in a horror game. If you think about it, back in the day, most horror franchises had young people as protagonists, especially Resident Evil. It has that Japanese thing where young people are overachievers, like Chris Redfield at 25. He was already like what was it, like an Air Force veteran, something like that. Yeah, he was like an elite shooter, an Air Force veteran at the age of 25, and probably even more. And the other horror franchises too, like in Fatal Frame there were like the protagonist was a schoolgirl. Even Silent Hill, even though the protagonists in Silent Hill weren't like so young. I don't think they were as old as Isaac is in this game. But yeah, just something I thought it was interesting. Um, the story opens up with a video message from Isaac's girlfriend, Nicole Brennan, asking for help. She's stationed on a ship, and she's the senior medical official on that ship, the Ishimura, which is a planet cracker. Yeah, the one of those ships humanity uses to crack planets open and extract their resources. Following this message, Isaac and a team of specialists are added to said ship, which was on a mining operation, and yeah, on a mining operation on a stranded planet, on a far, I don't know how far it is from Earth, but it seems like it's pretty far. On the planet AG7, and their mission is to find out what happened and to possibly fix their comms that seem to be down. Things go immediately bad though, and the Kellion, which is the shuttle Isaac and the crew are using, gets badly damaged and destroyed shortly after arriving. They also soon discover the ship is infested with some kind of monsters, and 2 members of the rescue team die in the first attack. Now the only people left are Isaac, Zach Hammond, which is a security specialist and in charge of the mission, and Kendra Daniels, which is a computer specialist, computer and comm specialist. And this is where the real game starts. After you arrive, you see things have gone to shit, and yeah, you're on your own. You get your first weapon, the plasma cutter, the iconic plasma cutter, and you get introduced to the gameplay loop. The gameplay-wise, Dead Space is but one of the many RE4 inspired clones that popped up. And I have to say that it's probably definitely the best one of the bunch. Like other clones feature games like Dark Sector. I do remember playing Dark Sector like in 2008, but honestly, I remember kind of liking it. But I have since like noticed it doesn't have a good reputation, so I don't know. I will have to check it back again. But I didn't I didn't mind it at the time, as far as I remember. Big difference with Resident Evil 4 though is that you can shoot and move. Yeah, I know. Another peculiarity is that to damage the enemies, at least to damage them properly and effectively, you have to cut off their limbs. That will also mean that your shots have to be precise for the most part, depending on the weapon you're using. And so there's also no aim's way like in most other third-person shooters, which is definitely a plus in my opinion. I like this approach. It makes the game more playable and snappy if your character can aim straight without like your aim spazzing out because there's bloom or there's weapons way. Another peculiarity that makes this game rather unique are the zero gravity sections, because since the game takes place in space, and you're on a spaceship. Some sections in the ship will have no gravity and no oxygen. So you'll be on a timer to complete those specific portions of the gameplay. It's also very cool how the audio completely goes like almost away, because you're like in a vacuum where you're in space, so the audio gets snuffed out.
The starboard hull. Entering vacuum. Entering zero gravity. Warning.
And the way the game handles the zero G sections is also quite unique in the whole series, because in all successive games you will be able to float around in zero G, while in this one you can only leap from one point of the room to another. This makes it so you actually have to commit to going into a certain direction, and that leaves you more vulnerable because you can't course correct while you're still in the air. This definitely like opens up different gameplay scenarios compared to the subsequent games where you could float or around at your leisure. In the game, you'll also be able to upgrade your weapons, the rig, which is your suit, mostly health and hair, stasis and kinesis. The weapons are self-explanatory. The rig, like I've already explained, and the stasis is basically something that allows you to slow down the enemies and also some objects in the background, because there's going to be like some puzzles, let's call them that require you to slow objects down. For example, there's a door that's opening and closing very fast, and said door will kill you if you don't slow it down, for example. Just one of the many uses of the stasis. Kinesis in this game is mostly to pick up objects from the distance. It has no offensive function for the most part, unlike in the sequels. Upgrading your stuff is important, because going forward into the game, enemies will be obviously will become faster and more resilient. You also have the chance to buy supplies, ammo, more advanced suits from the stores that are scattered all over the ship. The upgrade system works through the use of nodes. You apply nodes to your weapons or suit, stasis or kinesis. You can either find nodes laying around the Ishimura, or you can buy them in set stores. Some of the resources will need you to find schematics for them before you actually are allowed to purchase them at the store, though, so keep this in mind. You won't be able to, for example, you won't be able to buy nodes immediately at the store. So resource management is actually an important part of the game, as you actually as in you actually deciding what you spend your credits on. You'll have to make some decisions, some important decisions in that regard. Your arsenal is also pretty decent, although obviously not as varied as it is in the sequels for like obvious reasons. Each weapon has also an alternate fire mode, which makes the weapons even more fun to use. Gives more variety to the gunplay. The enemies instead are the disgusting necromorphs. At least that's what the people in the game call them. And said necromorphs are the Ishimura crew that just got turned into these abominations. Like, on a side note, this game, like the atmosphere in this game, kind of reminds me of Aliens, of course, but also like of an old 80s movie in which Peter Weller was was the main lead, which was called Leviathan, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's basically kind of like Dead Space Alien, but underwater, because I think it takes place either inside a submarine or inside like a submerged like base research facility, something like that. And and in that movie the crew will get infected at some point and turn into a monster. So yeah, it's very, for me, it's very reminiscent of that movie. I actually suggest you watch that movie because it's pretty nice. Not the best horror movie, but it's decent. There's a different number of necromorphs. Some of them are just going to be annoying. Others more creepy, definitely, but also annoying. My personal favorites in this game are the dividers, which are basically tall, slender abominations that pretty much split into multiple pieces when you like damage them. To a certain point. And also because they give out the probably the best death animation in the game, which is the head of the divider going on to Isaac's body and replacing his head, kind of like Dio probably did in the first season, at the end of the first season of JoJo. It's probably a similar process to that one. And yeah, it's pretty creepy. They also like make a very odd sound, similar to what you will expect, like a whale or a cow. I can't really tell you, but it's a very haunting sound. And this game has also quite the gore in it. I will say this game is probably, in terms of gore, is on par probably with Resident Evil 4, which is definitely the goriest Resident Evil there is. So the gore is pretty good in this game. Now, as the story progresses, you'll find out what really happened on the Ishimura. And it turns out the guy that were on a mission, on a planet cracking mission on the Ishimura, found an alien artifact called the Marker on the planet they were cracking. Shortly after finding this thing, the colony starts experiencing episodes of violence, psychosis, violence, and all those nice things that people like so much. The people stationed there on the IAG-7 colony began suffering from psychosis and also got extremely violent as a result. In the meantime, the Marker's presence seems to be like producing some kind of organic growth all over the place. And the Marker is also causing the infection that's turning everyone that died into necromorphs. And since a lot of the crew is also composed by unitologists, a cult that actually thinks that markers bring salvation and unity, things are bound to get worse. Because the most devout unitologists are instructed to kill themselves, so they will be reborn. And that just means more bodies for the necromorphs to turn. More bodies for the Marker to turn into necromorphs. The game has 12 chapters, and its length is roughly around 10 hours, give or take. Another peculiarity is that Isaac is a silent protagonist, so he'll always be following instructions from others, mostly during the course of the game. It's an interesting choice for sure, but as the series goes on, it will not be the case anymore, probably because it's hard to give a character a personality if he's covered in armor and completely silent. So I totally understand the choice. Another thing I really like is that the HUD is very minimal in this game. Like there's no health bar on the screen like you will see in all the other regular video games. No ammo count. Everything like is in real time. Your health bar is displayed behind like the back of the character. His spine is basically your health. The stasis is indicated like in that half circle near the health, and the ammo count is displayed like over the weapon. You can see it when you point the weapon. You'll be able to see how many hits you have, how many shots you have in the magazine. It's a very neat choice. I really like it. It gives the game like that touch of uniqueness, like, because there aren't really many games that do this stuff, and it helps it helps definitely to make it stand out from the rest. In terms of level design, like exploration is present. The level design is not very intricate, but I would say this is mostly a linear game, in the sense that you go forward most of the time. Uh, each chapter each chapter takes place inside a part of the ship, so you will be moving from one part of the ship to another in each chapter, and like there's some exploration here and there, but it's mostly a linear game, like I said. Uh, Also because the object marker that tells you where you have to go doesn't really like leave much to the imagination. You say like you can't, like if you can't use it, you can avoid using it if you want. I personally use it because it helps me with understanding where I have to go. So in the case that there's maybe like a different path to take, I can just go and explore the opposite direction to the object marker, so I can see if I can find some extra stuff, some extra goodies, like ammo and such. It's useful in that sense, but yeah, you won't like have to explore much. Most of the exploration, most of the segments in which you have to explore are the ones where you are in 0G. Those are the biggest sections where you'll have to navigate also vertically. And yeah, that's where most of the exploration, like in looking for items, is. The rest is depends also on the mission, on the part of the ship and the mission you're performing, because there's a few missions where you have like kind of a choice where you can go. For example, when you have to purify the air, I think it's in chapter 7. There's multiple objectives in the sense that you have to kill different creatures that are poisoning the air, and there's multiple of them. The object marker will tell you where they are one by one, but you can go the other way and kill them in a different order to what the object marker tells you. You're completely free to do it. You're absolutely not like forced to complete the objectives when they are set in this way, like how the marker tells you. But most of the time, yeah, you'll have to go where the object marker tells you if you want to progress with the story. It's just like because the focus is not really exploration is in this game, but it's mostly, I would say, the action and the shooting, and also like the horror and the gore. Exploration is more like a side note. It's still present, but it's more like a side note on this game. Now with some spoilers. I know this is a very old game, but I'll say it. Now I'm gonna talk about some spoilers. But yeah, near the end of the game, it is revealed that Kendra was actually an EarthGov spy all along. She was actually tasked with recovering the marker, and Hammond ends up dying, killed by a brute, which is another form of necromorph, a giant bulking necromorph. And you also find out that the marker manipulates people through visions and slowly makes them go insane. There are other survivors on the ship. Some that are irrelevant to the plot and are just there to create atmosphere, because they'll be most of the survivors you don't interact with are insane. I've gone insane because of the marker and the influence. So they'll kill themselves right after you meet them. But you actually meet two other characters, two humans who you will interact with, and one is Dr. Mercer, who is a fanatic unitologist. He will actually try to kill you at every turn because he believes like humans are done and necromorphs are the future of the human race. Yeah, he's a fucking retard. Like all your religious fundamentalists, pretty much. And then there's also Dr. Klein, who is also a unitologist. Most of the crew is made of unitologists. And Dr. Klein will be more friendly to you. He has a plan to fix things, or at least try, because he seems to realize they have messed up by retrieving the marker. Mercer winds up killing himself by letting an infector turn him into an necromorph. And you can actually stop the necromorph from the infector, which is a necromorph that infects bodies to make them turn more quickly. And you can actually stop him from turning into a necromorph, which is something I always do, because I'm not letting him get what he wants, because he's a fucktard. Kain instead seems to he gets killed by Kendra. Yeah, I know, spoiler. He gets killed by Kendra because Kendra doesn't want to go along with Kain's plan, so she kills him and steals the shuttle and the marker, or at least tries. But Isaac stops her by recalling the shuttle with the remote command, thanks to Nicole's suggestion. The last stretch of the game sees you on the Aegis colony itself, trying to put the marker back in place to calm the hive mind, which is supposedly the giant creature that they found in the planet's core that's controlling all the necromorphs. And this pretty much was Dr. Kain's plan. Kendra tries again to steal the marker, and this is where Isaac realizes that Nicole was dead all along. He actually watches the transmission he got from Nicole until the end, and it shows that Nicole kills herself because she couldn't handle what was going on the Ishimura, so she decides to end her life. When she's about to get away, Kendra gets killed by the hive mind. That's furious that someone took the marker away once again from its rightful place. And hive mind is indeed the final boss. There are other bosses too in the game. It's mostly, as far as I remember, I can tell there are 3 bosses, because the first few bosses you meet are actually just different types of necromorphs. So for example, the first time you encounter the brute, it's presented to you kind of like a big deal, but he will become a recurring enemy. And yeah, there's the first actual boss you encounter is the Leviathan in the food storage. And yeah, that's one of the big bosses of the game. Then there's another one, but you'll fight him with a turret in a turret section, so it's not just the same as the others. And then the final boss, which is the hive mind, of course. The hive mind is actually quite easy. It's a very easy. It has a very easy pattern, so it's really no big deal, even on impossible. But it's pretty big. It's the second biggest boss probably in the series. After beating the hive mind, Isaac gets in the shuttle and then leaves the planet that's about to collide with a piece of rock that was stationed in orbit due to the planet cracking. Isaac survives, and he's the only survivor, but his mind is affected by the marker at this point. Because yeah, the Nicole you were interacting with throughout the game was just an hallucination, because she was, like I said before, she was dead all along. Now a remake for Dead Space came out this year. I haven't played it yet, so I'm not going to compare the gameplay that much. Just a few general comparisons, because I want to actually like play the remake before like making a proper comparison. But I can talk about other things I saw. Like you can definitely tell the remake has been updated with some modern sensibilities. Like for example, all the promotional images on the Ishimura, because there were like messages on the Ishimura that illustrated like different services, different activities on the ship that were in a certain way in the original, with that depicted a certain people and people of certain races, and those races were changed in the remake. So yeah, they actually they put more black people in these ads in the remake, because of course they are going to. They just can't help themselves. They could have let like anything as it was, but no, they couldn't help themselves. Yeah, they also like changed the bathrooms. I think they, from what I've seen, they put in like unisex bathrooms. But I mean, honestly, I don't care that much. Yeah, it's spots, but I'm not gonna focus on that. The characters in the remake look more like their voice actors, and yeah, the thing is when they change like the aspect of a character after a long time, it's just not the same to me. Like to me, Isaac is the one in the original, not the one in the remake. Also because his voice actor kind of looks like Adam Sandler, so it's kind of jarring when you see it. And he looks a bit younger than his age, honestly. Meanwhile, Isaac in the first Dead Space, he looks his age. Like when he takes his helmet off, you can tell he's 40 or around that age. Meanwhile, Nicole in the original looked and sounded younger. She's also like supposed to be in her late 30s, I think. But yeah, in the original she looks younger than that, but in the remake she looks way older. I don't know if they did it intentionally, or they just fucked up the scanning of Nicole's model in the remake, because the Nicole's voice actress is an attractive woman in real life. So I don't know if they made her uglier by accident, or I mean not uglier, but in the game she doesn't look young. She looks way older than she actually is. She actually looks like she's almost in her 60s in the game. So I also don't like what they did to Ammon in the remake. They made him like a clueless beta. Ammon in the original Dead Space was a badass, but in the remake he's a fucking retard. I don't like it in the remake. Kain is also not as good. Kain's actor and the interpretation is not as good as in the original, definitely. As a whole, Dead Space still holds up incredibly well, in my opinion. There's some clunkiness to Isaac's movement in the first game, probably because like they still didn't go like full on action like Dead Space 2, so they tried to make the game more balanced between action and horror. Meanwhile, the sequel will go like full on action. But yeah, I think that Space 1 is a great compromise in terms of horror and action gameplay. It's still very fun to play. The shooting mostly feels very good. The weapons, when you shoot a weapon and its feedback on an enemy, it's still something that a lot of modern games are not able to recapture. Even the remake itself, they changed how the stagger works, and I honestly prefer, from what I have seen at least, I prefer how the original works in terms of staggering the enemies, because it also makes the weapons feel more beefy. But yeah, in my opinion, what EA should have done, they should have released a compilation of all 3 Dead Spaces with updated graphics, and of course all the bugs corrected, because there's quite a few bugs in the PC version of Dead Space 1, so they should have fixed those too as well. But other than that, these games are perfectly playable, so they should have made like a collection. And Dead Space 1 didn't really need a remake. I think they made a remake because it was probably the easiest property to remake. Dead Space 1 is a very easy game to remake because it doesn't have many people, like many characters in it. The environment is quite self-contained, so it's just inside a ship for the most part, and its own space too. So it was quite easy to remake compared to for example, another game. For example, I think the game that needed a remake was Mass Effect 1. But of course, remaking Mass Effect, it's going to be like a whole other effort in terms of scale, because it's a more complex game with more variables. So EA decided to go for the easiest route and just remake Dead Space. But in my opinion, they should have made a collection first and then possibly remade the first one. Because now we find ourselves in the same situation Capcom is behaving with the Resident Evil, where they're just remaking the games, but they are not releasing the old games on modern systems. Like, the games prior to Resident Evil 4 are just not on modern systems, are not on Steam, are not on Xbox. Like modern Xbox consoles, PS5, Switch as well. So, so you can't play. To play them, you actually have to possess all systems or to emulate them on PC. And I don't like it. I mean, on PC you can play Dead Space because it still runs. At least the first one runs with a few bugs, but it's perfectly playable. Like, I've played it multiple times at this point, so it's perfectly playable. But it would be nice to have an updated release. So hopefully EA actually makes a collection. But yeah, I guess don't count on it, I guess. But yeah, I definitely suggest you play Dead Space because it's still a very good game. It's still a very good game, and it also holds up graphically, in my opinion. The graphics are still decent, especially on PC when it's maxed out. It doesn't really look like bad to me. The lighting, the effects, the character models, they still look pretty decent. The score is also pretty good. It's a very good score. It will sell you the atmosphere for sure. It's a great score. And also the acting of the characters is top notch, in my opinion. Writing and characters acting is pretty good. Definitely feels like two steps ahead to what we get today, like usually. Your average modern Western slop writing. And of course the gameplay still holds up incredibly well. Now, if I had to find a flaw in the game, or flaws, if we want to call them that, I could say the map, in my opinion, is really not that good. It doesn't really help you, at least to me, it doesn't really help you figure out where you are. So I never use it in this game. But you don't really need it. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I don't like the map in this game. It's kind of confusing to navigate and to figure out where you actually are. But yeah, like I said, you don't really need it because where you have to go is most of the time self-explanatory, and there's the object marker. Another thing is that I don't really like the sections in where you get dragged by the tentacle and you have to aim in that weird way. It feels so awkward. Same when the hive mind grabs you on the leg and you have to aim from your with your head down. It feels awkward. And one last thing, I guess it can get a little bit repetitive when characters tell Isaac what to do and where to go, but after a while. But other than that, the game really doesn't have legit flaws, in my opinion. All things considered, I'm pretty like sure most people will still enjoy this game. I suggest you play it if you haven't played it yet. I'll give this game an 8 out of 10. Yes, I'm giving Dead Space an 8 out of 10. The original Dead Space, because it's still a very like playable game, playable experience. It has nothing less than your average AAA game of today. Actually, it has, in my opinion, it has even more than your average AAA game. It's a better, an overall better package than your average modern AAA game. So yeah, if you haven't played it. If you've played it, play it again. And yeah, this is it. There's not much else to say. It's a great game. Next for the channel, I'll see if I manage to review Dead Space 2 as well. But also there's another video I would like to make. I'm not sure like how I'll make it, but how long it will be. But yeah, I want to talk about like female characters like in modern games that kind of suck, honestly. And yeah, I want to give out a few examples of well-written female characters in older games that are missing today. So yeah, something like that, something along those lines. But yeah, this is it for now. Enjoy your day, enjoy the space, and enjoy whatever you want. Bye bye.